what happened today? What did you witness Trump do today?
Well, this was the theater of authoritarianism and the reality of it, right? This is the kind of thing that you'd see in South America in the 1950s, or, it's the Orban playbook, the Polish playbook. This is put troops on the streets, even if they aren't really needed. He did that in L.A. The riots out of control of L.A. In L.A., they kept showing the same one car burning. The police in L.A. are pretty good. They were on top of it. There were protesters, legit, peaceful, some getting out of control. No sign that the local authorities were unable to deal with that. But he wanted the troops on the street. He wanted you to feel that. And I'm talking to friends around here who live in D.C. I live out in Frederick, Maryland. And he wants them to feel it. He wants people to feel the exercise of his domination on their streets and on the streets of somebody else's city. So you don't want to, you don't want to get too out of the lane that you're supposed to be in your own city. And don't think that's not working. It is working. I was a foreign correspondent for 5 years, and I was in London one night waiting for the evening news, the Peter Jennings news, although he was gone by then, which comes out at 12:30 in the morning in London. So I'm there with my producer from Poland, Tomek Rolski, great guy. And they were in the throes of that government in Poland, the Law and Justice Party, which did something very similar from what we're enduring now. And they had just stripped the judiciary of authority, that kind of thing. And I said to Tomek, I said, what's it like to live there? Just what's it like for people who aren't in agreement with the government? And he said something that's come back to me a lot these days. He said, your life gets smaller. You try not to look around. You try not to stand up. Your life gets smaller. That's what Trump wants. What we saw today was a performance of authority backed up now by presidential powers that nobody's going to stop him from using, not Congress, not the courts, in order to dominate opposition. And it's also on an issue, that a lot of ordinary Americans are only glancing at the news, a little bit every day, say, well, okay, yeah, I guess DC's full of crime, go get him. He's not stupid.
You lost your job at ABC News for offering an assessment about Stephen Miller. And you were gone within 48 hours. And I have been really looking forward to talking to you about it, particularly with the passage of some time, right, out of the moment where I think you can objectively analyze some of this a little bit better. Do you remember exactly what you said about him?
I mean, not word for word, but I remember writing. I mean, I was of sound mind and body, so I certainly remember writing it. And I remember that I thought before I sent it, I thought, this is pretty hot. This is tough. But I looked at it before I sent it, and I thought, that's a description. I knew people would not like it within and without ABC News, but I thought, I'm describing something, and I believe that I was describing it accurately and fairly. I do remember I called him a world-class hater, which he is. I'd been thinking about it all day that day. Something about the manner in which his public persona was just bludgeoning the body politic every day, almost with lies and kind of spitting venom, and it's designed.
Let me ask this question, right? Would there have been an objection if you described David Duke as a world-class hater?
That's a great question. Probably. I might have had a minor reprimand. I would not have lost my job, but I might have had a reprimand.
Is there such a thing as a world-class hater? Do you think that that's a fair description, that there are people that, for whatever reason, burn with a deep hatred, that just objectively those human beings have existed over the course of history?
Sure. I mean, as a reporter, I look at the way Stephen Miller addresses the public, the way he fills the airwaves with lies and with this intense, almost desire to enrage and to humiliate. He almost spits out his words. I mean, how would you describe that? That's hatred. Trump too. More gleeful.
I think about your description and the consequence of it through a very singular prism. There's only one person I think about, and in the moment that it happened, it was a man named Avner Less. And Avner Less was a German Jew who became an Israeli police captain, and he was the singular person who interrogated Adolf Eichmann, which he did for 275 hours. And he never talked about it. He lied to his bosses about his family because he wanted the shot to interrogate him and knew he was up for it, and wouldn't get it if his bosses in Israel knew that he was in fact a survivor, and had lost his family. So however he obscured that, he did. And he's asked about the experience in 1981, so 20 years later. And he said, "Did you have any takeaways from that?" And he says, "Absolutely. He gave me my full faith in democracy, because there are Adolf Eichmanns everywhere. They're all around us. He said, but they're harmless in a democracy. But they turn deadly in an instant in a dictatorship." And what Stephen Miller is a little Eichmann, and he would have been understood as a little Eichmann contemporaneous to when that term was familiarized and popularized in the 1960s. And so if you eradicate objectively, right, as a news organization, right, the ability to describe someone accurately, precisely, surgically, then what you do is remove at a foundational level the keys to understanding someone like a Reinhard Heydrich, someone like a Joseph Goebbels, and you really censor historically by removing from consideration the role that this hatred had in the events that transpired when the personality disorder came into contact with immense political power. Mm-hmm. And so if you can objectively look at, say, Pope Francis and say that this is a person who advocated for love in the world, and also appreciate that there are doctrinal differences in a 2,000-year-old church, if you're covering it through that prism, but objectively, what did he stand for? He stood for these values. And are there antithetical values to that? And I would argue that there are. And are they represented, right, by vices? And among those vices, are there such things as bigotry? Are there such things as hatred? Are there such things as cruelty? And there are all of those things, and they are really the singular lessons of the 20th century. And to watch you lose a pristine journalism career for the precise description of such things 6 months in to an autocratic travesty was quite a jarring moment in all of it. But the one thing that no one will ever be able to say about you is that you lost your integrity with so many others along the road over these many years. So good for you. I'm Steve Schmidt. This is The Warning. I invite you to join this community where I promise to be honest, blunt, and direct about what is happening in this country. America is in crisis. Follow and subscribe to this channel and on Substack. Thank you.